Okay, hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today we are going to be looking at Microsoft PowerPoint templates. Now this follows on from our webinar last month on Microsoft Word templates. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that webinar, please pop over to our website where you'll be able to find the link to YouTube and rewatch that episode. So, diving straight in, let's look at our agenda for today's session. So first of all, we're going to start off by looking at and getting an understanding of what Microsoft PowerPoint templates actually are. We'll then talk about why they're important and why we should be using them. Following that, we'll have a brief explanation of some key PowerPoint terms so that when we go into our demonstration, you'll have a better understanding of what we're talking about. Then we'll look at how to actually create a PowerPoint template. So we're doing something a little bit different today. So it is going to be a live demonstration. So please do bear with me if we have any technical issues. And then finally, we'll talk briefly about how to distribute your templates to your organization once you have created them. So let's start by diving into and understanding what PowerPoint templates are and why they're such essential tools for effective presentations. So essentially, Microsoft PowerPoint templates is a file type of a template, and it is a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation where some of the design features have been preset. So things like pre-designed slide layouts that include placeholders for text and images and other content, but it also includes things like colors and fonts that you might want to preset for your organization. They're really important because creating a PowerPoint template in the correct way enables you and your colleagues to safely generate new presentations from a template without impacting the original version of the template. So often we'll see that somebody spent a lot of time creating a whole variety of templates, whether that's PowerPoint or it could be across Microsoft Word or other Office applications. And then once they give access to those templates to the rest of their colleagues start editing them and changing them because they haven't been set up correctly as templates. So we'll go through that a bit later on. Finally, one of the really powerful things with Microsoft PowerPoint templates these days is that if you have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, it can actually use your templates to create new presentations for you. So Copilot can already create a PowerPoint presentation for you, but it would just generate the layouts and styling randomly or as what it thinks is best. Whereas if you actually give it a template based on your organization's branding, then it was much more likely to align with the kind of presentation that you had in mind and therefore save you even more time. So why do templates matter? Templates provide a standardized format, so they ensure that all parts of your presentation maintain a consistent visual style. The most important thing is that they can help you save time. So they save time on design and content. So instead of focusing on the layout and the styling when you're creating a presentation and redoing something that you've done 100 times, you can really just focus on making sure that the content is tip top. Templates also enhance the overall professionalism of your presentations, making them more appealing to your audience and hopefully more engaging. And finally, they can really help to reinforce your organization's branding because you can incorporate your brand's colors, fonts, and logos throughout the presentation. As you can see, we like to use our logo quite a lot here on the right-hand side. So some essential PowerPoint terms. There's a couple here that I think is important for you to know before we dive into our demo. The first one is the slide master. So your slide master, if you've not come across it before, this is what helps you control the overall formatting across your presentation. So it's where you're able to set theme colors, create slide templates that people and Copilot can use to create slides. The next ones are layouts and placeholders. So layouts is reasonably straightforward. It's essentially the design of a slide. So you can indicate where you want certain elements to appear. So whether that's images, titles, or text or graphs. And the placeholders is what you actually use to create those layouts. So placeholders are like building blocks where you define what type of content should appear on the layout and where it should appear on that layout. So we'll look at some of those in the demo shortly. And the third one is themes and backgrounds. So themes is where you're able to determine the colors that are used and enables you to actually change the default color palette within your template. So we're going to jump into our demo next, and we'll hopefully get a better understanding of how those things impact our templates. So, as I said, we are going to do a live demo. So I'm just going to quickly switch windows here and open PowerPoint. So when you are creating a Microsoft PowerPoint template, the very first thing you need to do is obviously open PowerPoint. And we are going to start with a blank presentation. So this is the PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint that you're probably all familiar with. And now the very first thing that we're going to do is go up to the menu at the top, and we're going to click on View, and then we're going to click on Slide Master. So this is what we just briefly talked about, which is your slide master. It's where you're able to set a lot of the default styles and layouts for your presentation. So on the left-hand side, we have what looks like your traditional presentation slides, where it would list all of the slides available. But in this case, what we've got is at the very top, we've got our master slide. And then below that, we can see that it's got a whole bunch of different slide layouts. So Microsoft is very good, and they've given us a whole number of different preset designs that they think might be useful for us. So the next step is to start setting up all of your styles and templates. The very first thing you want to do is go to colors. Now, if you joined our webinar on Microsoft Word templates, this hopefully will already be a little bit familiar for you. But you go to colors, and this is where you set your color palette for the presentation. Now we've already got a few custom ones here from previous webinars that we've done. If you haven't already set up your custom colors, you just need to go to the bottom, select customize colors, and this screen will pop up. Now we've got text for dark and light backgrounds. Most of the time you probably won't need to change those, as black and white will work for most people. The ones that you want to focus on is your accent colors. So you're able to pick 6, and these would be the ones that match your organization's branding. So essentially you just click on each one, click more colors, and just need to enter the hex codes for the colors that match your organization's branding guide. Go through all of those and set them up. You can also change the hyperlink colors as well if you'd like. Maybe worth considering depending on what accent colors you have. And then you just need to give it a name. So type in a name, hit save. We're going to just click cancel here because we already have a few set up. And we can see we're going to use our custom 1 or custom 2. Now, if we go back to select some text, what we'll see is when we now go to try and change the color of something, the color palette has changed to match the colors that we set. So that's why that's really important, because it saves you so much time by selecting the right colors, and it will automatically, as we can see, update the gradients as well. So it gives you a nice variety for the different colors that you would like. Now, once you set up your colors, you're going to want to start doing your design work. So when you do this, there's 2 main things to consider. This first slide, any changes you make to this first slide will filter through to all of the other design layouts. So for example, if we change the background style, we're just going to go for one of the preset ones initially. We can see that we've now set that background color, and it's automatically updated the background color for all of our slide layouts. You can change the individual background color for certain design layouts if you want, but usually most of the time you'd want the same background color for all of the slides. Other things to consider is that you may notice here we've got things on the bottom of the slide template. So we've got the date, we've got a footer bar where we could put, for example, our company name, and then this right-hand one is the slide number. So you may or may not want those to appear on each one, but you can do that by simply clicking the footers button on each of the slide layouts. Once you've set your background and you've set your fonts that you want to use within your master slide, you then can go through, and if you want, you can change the layouts of some of these design templates. Mostly you probably wouldn't need to, but what you may want to do is actually create a new layout. So if you have a very specific slide design that you want to be able to use, you go up to the top button and you click Insert Layout. And now this is automatically populated with some of the details from our master slide. So what we might do is just turn off the footer because we don't want it to appear on there. And this is where we're going to use the placeholders that we talked about before. So you go up to Insert Placeholder and you'll see that there's a variety of options. So some of them are obvious, things like text and picture. You can use those to indicate where a text should appear on the slide or picture. Some of the less obvious ones, content is a useful one. That's more of a flexible block. So you could just put a block in, say this could be anything, whether it's a picture or a graph or some text. And the other one you may not be familiar with, but you probably wouldn't need, would be Cameo. Cameo enables you to indicate where the video feed should appear if you were doing a virtual presentation and you wanted your camera to show on the presentation. So very simple to use. You just select the placeholder that you want and you simply just drag and drop it onto the screen for the size that you want. And then you can obviously tweak them if you want to change the color of the text or the size of the text or anything like that. That's basically how placeholders work. So you might want some text there, and then to add another one, you just go back to Slide Master, insert placeholder, and maybe we want a picture here underneath. Now, other things that is quite useful to do is that you may, for example, want to have actual images on. We talked about having your brand logos to reinforce your branding. So you can insert specific images as well. So you just, like usual, would go to Insert from this device. You then select your image. And I'm just going to quickly find our logos. And then there we have our logo. So that would appear now on that individual slide template. And you can also, if you would like, put them on the master slide. And as we can see, by putting it there, it then appears on every single slide template. If you're wanting something like that, you do have the option to then turn it off individually for certain templates by clicking the Hide Background Graphics, which will turn it off for that individual one. So that's where you would then want to create all of your very unique slide layouts with all of your designs. So if you have very specific ones that you want to use. So another quick tip that we find quite useful, if you go onto the very top master slide, you can actually add information to appear around the outside of your slides that's not editable. An example of why you might want to do that is, for example, we have here our color codes. Now, that's going to go to the back, hang on. Try and paste that in again so it's more accessible. There we go. So you can have this off. And of course, always with a live demo, something goes wrong. So essentially what I'm trying to do here is just move this off the side of the slide. There we go. What that means is if we now close our master view, we can see here that I now have the color codes available to me on every single slide. So if I now put in a new slide with a different layout, it still appears. And that can be quite useful if there's specific information you want to appear on a certain slide, whether that's across all of the slides or just for a certain layout. And because that's off the side of the actual slide, it won't appear in any presentations that you do. We find this one quite useful because we're only allowed to pick 6 accent colors in the color palette, but we have 8. So it's useful to know which of those we also have the ability to use. So if you then need to make any changes, you can go back to your slide master and we can move that around as needed. That is quite a quick overview of PowerPoint presentation templates, but hopefully it gives you a really good starting point to be able to start creating and thinking about how you want to create your own. There are obviously a few other tools that you can use, but that is the basics that will get you to a point where you've got a good working template. Now, when it comes to creating and using your template, we close the master view. You'll see that any custom layouts that you create will appear in the new slide button. So that this one here is the one that we created, and that pops that in nice and easy. We'll get rid of the design mode for now. So what you may want to do is actually, from this point, is actually create some slides to go into a template. So for example, if you had a recurring meeting, we have a regular town hall once a month with all of our team. So we actually then use a fixed template for that, where we pre-create some of the slides as well, because we have fixed sections that then it's much easier to populate. You may have other recurring meetings that's a useful tool for. However, what I would suggest is before you do any of that is that you actually save your basic template with all of your branding set up, because then you can use that as a basis to create more templates. So really important when it comes to actually saving your PowerPoint presentation that you spent ages creating is to go to File, click Save As, and you want to select this field here, which is the file type, and click the PowerPoint template file type. I would always recommend just selecting the file type first, because then you can't accidentally save it as the wrong file type by entering a name. So then you give it a name and you would save it wherever you want to within your 365. Now, obviously creating your templates is a really good starting point, but it's really just the first part of the process, and almost equally as important is how you deploy those templates to the rest of your team. Now, I briefly mentioned earlier that there's a sort of a right way and a wrong way to deploy your templates. So the wrong way, or the ways that we've seen people do it in the past that don't really work, is either via email or shared folder, and these can be okay, but long term they don't really work, and you want to make it as easy as possible for people. So the best practice is actually to deploy a templates folder. So that folder will sit somewhere within your SharePoint, and then we are able to tell Microsoft Office where to look for your templates. So to show you what that actually looks like once it's set up, if you go back to File and click New, you'll see here that we have all of the generic Microsoft templates, all of the ones that they've created and that you can use. But next to that, we actually have a special tab called Heliocentrics, and obviously it would be named after your company. But if you click on that, you can see that we've got a number of folders for various templates that we've created. And we've got one down here for our town hall. So it's as quick and easy as just selecting the template you want, and then PowerPoint creates a brand new file from that template. So the real benefit of this is that it prevents any users from being able to edit the template in any way, either accidentally or on purpose. And this just creates a new version every single time they open it from there. And the great thing is once that folder is deployed correctly, it works across all of your Microsoft Office applications. So that means that if you have Microsoft Word templates, you just need to add them to the same folder and they will appear in Microsoft Word for you to be able to create a new version from that template as well. So let me just stop my sharing and I'll get my presentation back up. So from there, what are your next steps? We would always recommend before you get started is figure out exactly what templates that you need. You may need more than one, and you may need different ones for internal users versus if you're doing a presentation for external users, for example. As I mentioned, the internal ones, you may have regular meetings that you want to set up different templates for each of those meeting types. So you've got some of the information already there, the sections set out nice and clearly to save even more time. Once you've defined your list, you can then go ahead and actually create all of your templates. So take your time, get them looking really nice, get all the layouts working as you'd expect and how you want them. And then the final step, as we just discussed, is getting it deployed correctly. If you do need assistance with that, or you would like to find out about getting a template folder deployed for your organization, then please do get in touch and we can assist with that. But that just about wraps it up for today's webinar. If you are interested in learning any more, please keep an eye out for any future webinars. We do advertise them all in our newsletter, but they are also available on our website. You can use the QR code on the screen to go to our events page. As well, we do offer bespoke training and consultancy. So if you'd like any one-to-one training or you feel like there's a specific problem that you'd need assistance with, then please do get in touch and we'd be happy to help. But otherwise, thank you again for attending this webinar. We will send out an email with links to all of the resources and a recording in the next 24 hours. Yes, I think, was there a question? Feel free to pop it in the chat or use the Q&A button at the top and I'll be happy to answer it. Okay, no problem. Thanks for attending. As I say, if you do find you have any questions, just let us know. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.